Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back, Crushers. Welcome back to another episode of Crushing with Abby O. This is episode 21, and today I have a very special guest. She is hilarious, and she brings her bold, fun energy to this entire conversation, along with sharing a ton of amazing tips. It is money and mindset coach Antonietta Chiappetta. Y'all, we cover so much in this episode, from money blocks and generational conditioning around money to doing the work and taking radical responsibility in your own life, getting comfortable with the discomfort, lack mentality, thinking that you have to do it all yourself. She shares her favorite money affirmations along with a lot of juicy information. Let me introduce you to Antonietta. Beginning in 2020, Antonietta saw a need in the entrepreneurial industry for an awakening around business owners and their mindset. This led her down a path of self-discovery while becoming a mom for the second time. Using what she learned, Antonietta applied it to the business owners she knew to see if any of what she had to offer was relatable to them, and it was. Helping multiple business owners find their true passion in business, make more money, and have more freedom have been only a few of the incredible changes that have happened along this beautiful journey so far. Soon to be a mom of 3, she felt the need to create more of an impact in life and business by working more closely with female business owners to expand their income and their impact. Everyone, this is Antonietta. Welcome, Antonietta, to the podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yes, we have chatted before in my Facebook group and needed to make it a fish for the podcast. So here we are.
So excited. That was so much fun. So
yeah, it was. It was a great conversation. So, and I know that this will be too. So I know that you went from corporate to lash business and now to coaching. So I'll let you fill in the details of that, the transition through those careers to where you are now, money and mindset coaching.
Awesome. Well, to start, yes, that was a perfect spinal introduction for it. That's exactly what went from 6 years in a corporate in the fitness industry, actually. So 6 years in that, found out I was pregnant in my 5.5 year and decided I didn't want to return. So made the decision with not very much money available to me. I'll be honest. It was like my last, I think like $350 on my credit card. So girl, it wasn't even my money. It was the last thing. I was sitting at my desk and I remember putting the deposit down for my course. And in that moment, I decided like, I have to do this because it has no choice but to succeed. So went on maternity leave, took my course. My son was a month old. I drove an hour and a half away to go take this course, came back and started building from there. And like I said, I wasn't going to let it fail because I had invested literally whatever I had left to get to where I was. So within about 6 months, I made my first, I think it was $8,000 to $10,000 in my business in 1 month.
And to clarify, this is your lash extension.
My lash business. Yes. Yeah. So this was my lash business. And then after, I decided later that year that I was actually going to resign from my job early. So I didn't go back after maternity leave. And I also decided to get into lash educating. So built that business up as well. Loved it. Education was just always kind of for me. I always thought it was something I wanted to do, just help other people, help them grow and things like that, which you can see how that would make the pivot into coaching. So
yeah.
Then 2020 hit with the rest of us, right?
Yeah. And we weren't in our studios anymore.
Right? So then what happened? So then I had my daughter in April of 2020. And I decided that I really didn't want to provide in-person service anymore. It had absolutely nothing to do with what was going on that year. It was just more so I wanted the freedom of, if I wanted to pick up and travel with my kids, with my family, I could pick up and travel and just work from my laptop. So what was I already really good at that I could then translate to become even better at, which would be able to help more people. Naturally, it felt like coaching, mentoring was the right thing to do. So I ended up slowly transitioning into that. And here we are today. I had a couple bumps in the road with that. I kind of had to figure out what my place was in the industry. Where did I want to be? Did I want to just do working with lash artists? Did I want to span out and work with other people? I started out with lash artists. Funny thing, I don't know why, but the majority of my clients are still lash artists. Even though I don't cater to them anymore, I cater more business owners and people who do need help with their money mindset. But here we are today. We're 1 year later, and it's been incredible. I love what I do so much that I could honestly throw up and just I just love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's amazing.
Which I love that. I love when people are just so passionate about what they do. And it clearly shows. How did you realize that like money and mindset would be something that you would be great at coaching?
Okay. So the reason why money is because money is such an uncomfortable topic. I am not someone, we'll call it controversial, but I'm not someone who really shies away from controversial topics. But this one here is one that has this kind of like undertone. Money has this undertone that it's not to be spoken about. You don't ask people what they do. If they're traveling a lot, it's like, well, wow, what do you make? Like, how, these are all these kind of like taboo questions. And I'm like, why are we not talking about this? Like, the reason, if we're not talking about it, then we need to shake things up and start, because the people who have a lot of money talk about it. And in my head, and just from what I know from my own courses, my own investments and stuff like that I've made, it's like mirroring is the biggest thing to get you to the next level. So it's like, if I want to become, now I'm speaking, I this level is beyond my comprehension, but if I want to become the next Jeff Bezos, like, I'm not going to be sitting around with the guy who owns the little coffee shop down the street. It's great. And people might have, these ideas as well, but I want to be mirroring and picking the brain of someone at the level I want to get to. Right. So it was just about money. Money came naturally because it was one of these things that, and I'm sure you can relate, and listeners can also relate, where there was just maybe, can I say shitty?
Yeah, you can cuss.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. It's already marked explicit just from like my first few episodes. So we're good to go.
Yeah. So we a lot of us have grown up with a really shitty lack money mindset, right? Where it's like, there's not enough. Maybe next time we'll get that. Not right now. Paydays on this day, whatever kind of stories that you've heard growing up. And those really start to mold how you become as an adult. And the ultimate reason was because I realized how much I heard of that as a kid. And my parents are amazing. They did the absolute best with everything they had. They only knew what they knew based on how they were taught. I said, I'm going to break the generational cycle. And I want to be the one that doesn't speak to my, have my kids hear that kind of language and that kind of thing. So what did I have to do to change it? And as I started working on me and for my kids, I realized there are so many other people that do this and subconsciously don't even realize. So why not expand?
Yeah.
And now here we are. So I friggin' love it. I could go on about it all day.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of digging into like, conditioning and patterns and stories and breaking those generational cycles. So I love this kind of conversation, and I'm excited to just have a good old money chat with you today.
I'm just excited. It's my jam.
Yeah. So like, what does it mean to have a block around money? Like when people are like, oh, you have a money block, like what does that even mean?
That's an awesome question. And the reason why it's awesome is because I feel like this word or phrase is coming up a lot. It's like, oh, you just have blocks, but no one
Mhm.
actually explains
Yeah.
it.
Like, what does that mean to the person that's just listening? Like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like
Yeah. Like, what kind of block?
the
Legos? Like,
Tetris
what are we
block
talking
in my
about? Yeah,
brain.
yeah.
Like, don't.
So a block would be something that kind of it is it is what it is. It sounds so vague, but like it kind of is what it is, right? It's like it's something that's stopping you from being able to push forward. So a block could be 9 out of 10 times usually subconscious blocks. So something that you have learned conditionally from your environment, maybe from your upbringing. So a money block could be something like, as I just said, like growing up, your parent might have said something like, maybe you went to go, maybe there was a really important time in your life, like say you wanted to go on a trip with your school, and like those trips, like I know for us, like a lot of them were like, oh, you can go to New York City for 4 days and da da da. So like there was like these long field trips you could go on. So say that's something you really wanted to do because you're so excited, or we had some that
Mhm.
were even going to Europe, right? And you're really excited and you go ask your parents and they're like, sorry, we don't have the money for that. Like we
Mhm.
can't afford that right now. So something that would create excitement in you and that desire in you to fulfill something gets shut down by something else. And
Mhm.
those would kind of link together where it would be like, oh, if I desire something, I don't actually have the money for it. So
Mhm.
slowly over time, all those things start to build up that subconscious block, if you want to call it that, because it's like, I affiliate desire to not having enough, or I affiliate to desire, I affiliate desire to like, I'm not worthy of it.
Mhm.
Right? Those are
Yeah.
essentially blocks. Yeah.
That's like one of the best explanations that I've heard that I think is really easy to relate to. Because I learned a lot about like the nervous system and, rewiring the brain. And it can get a little like out there. I mean, I love it, but it does take a minute to like process that, understand
Mhm.
how these things that we grew up with, like even though we're just not aware of it, and it's no one's fault. You're not aware of it yet. So what kind of blocks do you typically see when you're working with people?
A lot of them are blocks around parental influence. So would be money is a big one. Money is always a big one. What I found is like it doesn't really matter kind of what kind of financial background you come from, because even if you come from like a wealthier financial background, you may have still some kind of limiting belief around it. Like, what if it does run out one day? Right. So,
Mhm.
say like someone who comes from a wealthier background, or just, you know, above middle class, right? Like someone who's not really worried about money, they're kind of just chilling. But there was maybe some kind of conversation growing up where it's like, but if dad loses his job, we'll lose everything.
Mm,
And then you
mhm.
kind of link like, okay, so if I lose my job, I lose everything. So I can't lose my job, and you'll stay in a shitty job just for the sake of not wanting to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Mhm.
so it doesn't really kind of matter, but a lot of it is definitely from what is stemmed in childhood, which is, it makes sense, right? Subconscious mind,
Yes.
0 to 7, moldable, very malleable, and that's where you're going to get the majority of your understanding. So
Yes. Yes, which was my next question, was like, where do they really come from? And it does generally stem from your childhood. And I want people to start to realize that, as that's part of, on the health and fitness side, what I coach as well, is like you have to find the root of where these blocks are coming from. And when you dig in and when you can become aware of it, if I knew how to speak English today, when you become aware of it, it has less control over you. You can start to take control back. And that is what's so powerful about all of this. But it's like, until we dig in and we figure these things out, and it's not easy. And then sometimes it's a little painful, it's a little hard, because you don't, like, I don't blame my parents or anything like that. But if that's what I heard growing up, then that's what I'm conditioned with. And so it's on me to then take responsibility and like figure out how I can get past that, or do I need help with, doing that, so that I can move forward and be the best that I can be, and just nip all that shit in the bud.
yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it, right? It's like the biggest thing that I also, when I work with people, is like, don't go and if like there are breakthrough sessions and stuff that we have that are much more intense than others. And tears happen and just things come up of just, you know, these overwhelming emotions. And it's like, wait a minute, this is the reason why this is happening. But what you don't want to do is then go take that and be like, so the reason why my whole life is trash is because you were a shit mom and da da. It's like, no, like you're not going and blaming, because what you need to understand is like your parents were only doing what they knew how to do based on the resources they had, which was from the resources they had, which was their parents, which was from the resources. So that's why it's the generational thing, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. But the work, and that's really important too. The work that you're talking about, that is what most people don't want to do, because work where it comes up. The work is where it all comes up, and the work is where it's like things hit you in the face. And you got to remember, right? Like your subconscious remembers everything. Like it is a freaking sponge. There is nothing, it has no ability to reject an idea. Right. So think about all the things that have happened that you maybe remember consciously, like 10%. And the subconscious mind remembers the last 90.
It's just those patterns, that like ingrained pattern.
And that's why people get triggered, right? It's because you don't remember it consciously. It's like, why would this bother me? And then it's like, don't you remember the reason why this bothers you? And then the subconscious mind surfaces and it's like, this is why.
Yeah.
Right. So
you have that, and you have that nervous system response where you feel it in your body too. And then you're like, fuck, this isn't safe. Like, let me just retreat back because I'm getting heart palpitations. And really, like, what I am super hardcore about right now is just, it's not always serving you to be in your comfort zone. Sometimes you need to get a little bit comfortable and expand that so that you can grow and you can get past this shit, these patterns that are really holding you back from what you want to be.
Absolutely. And it's in the discomfort that you reach new levels. I actually just made a post on Instagram about, it's like very similar to this today, but it's like, it's in those moments of discomfort where you reach new levels. It's like, I put it in my story actually last night. I have the most clarity at like 1:00 in the morning. Don't ask. This is what happens. But it's just like success happens in the moments where you're not consciously thinking about it, where it's like, what little things am I doing every day? Am I learning something new every day or every other day? Am I reading something that's going to make me, more, financially literate, more, psychologically literate, whatever it is? What little steps are you taking every day? And then with that tied into like the unwavering belief in yourself, that's where success happens. Success is not a target. Success is a mindset. Success is who you are. Right. So it's like, if you believe now in this state that you are successful, you're going to be successful because you're already operating from the state in which you're trying to get to. But tie into uncomfortable and gotta get uncomfortable. I love it.
Gotta dig into the dirt and find the gold.
Yeah, right.
Hidden in there.
Because that's nasty. Leave that for kids.
And unearth it. And then you'll be all shiny and new.
Kind
of. Yeah. I mean, I just think that there's so much power. There's just so much power in awareness. It just doesn't matter what it is. So if someone is thinking right now, they're like, I've been feeling stuck. I've been feeling like blocked, and you don't even sometimes realize that you're feeling like, listen, I spent maybe the last couple of years possibly in denial that I was stuck. So if anyone can relate to that, like you think that you're doing the things and you're making some moves, and it's not that I wasn't growing and learning, but I still was definitely doing a little self-sabotage, and you just don't really know what you don't know. And whatever, I've become aware of all these different things I can learn and mindset and all of that. But at some point I realized like whatever it was that I was holding on to was keeping me from moving forward. And eventually I would say like, I like to sweep things under the rug. And then I finally was tripping over it and literally, like it slapped me in the face, and I no longer could ignore that I was feeling triggered by things that people were saying or by certain situations. And I had to fucking deal with it. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. I spent some nights crying on my couch, but when you can finally uncover like why you feel like you can't make the progress that you want, or you're looking at everyone around you and thinking like, well, they just do this and that's not how I'm going to do things. And I blah, blah, blah. And like being shitty, just being a little shit. It's like, if you're feeling, or even if it's not that like that aggressive, like you're just in your business and you're wondering why you can't move forward. Like maybe you're not getting the clientele you want. Maybe you're just not as far as along as you would like to be. I think that's when you have to get curious about why. Okay, well, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I not doing this thing? Could it be something else? Could it be a story that I'm telling myself? And I think it's really important to have conversations like this where we talk about and explore those terms like do the work and limiting beliefs and all. I didn't know what this was 5 years ago. Like I didn't know what any of that was. Like I was just getting introduced to like the business world and Simon Sinek, and like I love him, but I didn't have any clue about any of this stuff. And I think it would have really served me, but whatever. It is what it is. We all like come to the
You got to take your steps the way they come. You're
yeah,
not
exactly. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone is sitting there thinking like, wow, I kind of relate to what Abby's talking about, like what's a good kind of beginner step for them? What should they do next if they're thinking that they might possibly have some mindset shit around money that they need to clear up?
So first things first, there's a couple of things you said in your little spiel there that stuck out to me immediately. And even though 9 out of 10 times I'm like Dory and I can't remember anything, it stuck out to me right away. But you said about really comparing yourself to someone else, like, oh, well, they're doing this and why am I here? Da-da-da. And there's a book I'm reading right now, which I will mention at the end. But I am reading, and he mentions that you cannot be a creator while being a competitor. It is naturally our, it's our innate response as human beings to be competitive. We want to compare, we want to be competitive. It's just who's better, who's this, who's that, right? Like it's just kind of in that old 2 million-year-old brain of ours where it's like, the hunters and gatherers, even though the women were not, but just to say like, oh, he killed a bear. I'm going to go kill like I don't know, what the hell's bigger than a bear? I'm going to go kill a moose. Like, I don't
Elephant.
know.
Yeah, moose are huge.
Right. So it's like, I'm going to go kill a moose. So Canadian of me also, but right.
Yeah,
so it's
but
like,
it's true.
you're going to, so it's always like, you're trying to compete. Like, oh, he's got 5 wives. I'm going to go get 8. You know what I mean? Like there's always that innate, I'm sorry, men, but that's just what it is.
That is what it is.
It's kind of always going back to men. Anyway, the whole point is like, and women too in the field in general, right? Like we are naturally also competitive. It's like you find, I personally don't do this, but I can see how it does happen because I did it in the past. I was like, well, why is she doing better than me? Mm-hmm. Right. But it's the minute you get into that mindset of like comparison and competition, you step right out of that creative ability of yours. And that creative ability is where you find your ability to make money and grow and become a better person. So it's like, I had to touch on the creative and competitive versus, competitive and comparative to the creator, because it's in the creative mind that's where you're going to find what it is. And when you focus on that creative mind and you just keep, it's like you focus and you add to it and you water it, right? You water that plant and it's like, it has no choice but to grow. So it's like, it's always dependent on, I know you said, what are some things that people can do? That was the whole question, right?
Yeah. But, I was going to just for I think an easy example is when you jump on social media, you think you're going to post something, but you start scrolling and then you immediately see what everyone else is. And you're like, fuck, it's not good enough. And you just like decide not to do it. Or maybe you're looking for inspiration, but you get so caught up in what everyone else is doing that then you can't create yourself. Like you can't take anything away from that. And you just get in your head. I think that's a fairly decent example of like what you just said, and feeling that like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to create something as good. And like, that's not the point.
It's not because everyone has their own creative genius, right? So like what I might be really good at, you might not be really good at, and what you're really good at, I might not be good at, but that's okay. And it's also the grace to understand that, like, newsflash, like no one's good at everything. You just can. There is not enough time in a day. There's too much information for everyone to be good at absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And every time you think you're really good at one thing, or like you're going to be good at everything, something I guarantee you is being lost in transmission, because there is no way.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. And believe me, I believe in everybody to do everything, but there also has to come to a point of you got to kind of pull your head out of the clouds and be like, okay. And it just, let's even go back to lash business, right? Like people think they can be the social media manager, they can be the lash artist, they can be the person who creates all the new lash supplies, they can market, they can do this, like all these things. And it's like, oh, I'm also the accountant, I'm also the podcaster, I'm also the videographer, and it's like, how's your business doing? Oh, I'm making $1,500 a month. Okay, so you're not eating.
It's not funny.
Right? No, right? But obviously I'm being dramatic, right? But it's like, so you're scraping by, but you're doing all the things. Yeah, because I don't want to invest in someone else because I don't have the money to invest right now. Stop. That's where people have to stop, because the bleeding has to stop at the source. But when you get into the mindset that you can't afford to do something, you have made up your mind that no matter what comes your way, someone could hand you $10,000 to make an investment into your business, and you'd be like, I still can't afford it. Because you haven't actually broken out of the mindset that like money is currency. It circulates. So when you spend it, it has to come back. It's not like you spend it and it's just gone. It never comes back again. That's just not how it works. Right. So when people get into this headspace of like, I'll just do all the things in my business because it'll save me money. It's like people who did that, how are their businesses doing? Maybe there are a couple like breakthroughs that have happened in that, right? Where it's like they saved all the money and they were able to make this amazing business. But then what about you, like as a human? Like, how's your mental health doing?
Right.
Because I can guarantee, I'm telling you right now, I had to hire a social media manager.
How's the whole rest of your life doing? How's your social life? How's your health? How's your sleep?
Like, your sleep, like, and people don't even think about it, right? And this is an easy topic for us to talk about, because coming from the fitness industry for so many years, it's like people don't realize like, oh, well, I'll just stay up till 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, and how's your cortisol level at 10?
Exactly.
How's that doing? Or how's it at 2 when it's kicking in, thinking like, why are you still awake? And then it's 3 and you had screens on the whole night, but you still can't sleep. And you're like, I don't know why I'm having such a terrible sleep. It's like, well, because you're doing all the things. And I will never discourage a business owner from putting in the work, because I've been there, done it. Very grateful to be at the point where I'm at, where I can outsource a lot of things. But it was at the point when I had nothing that I outsourced for the sake of knowing that I had the understanding and belief in myself that what I put money into is always going to make money. What I put money into is always going to make more money. It's not limited. It's not lacking. It's always going to make more. Whereas most people invest, it's like, oh, I'm never going to see that money again. Oh, this is probably just such a waste of money. It's like, a waste of money is like buying a coffee every day when you can like get an espresso and make it at home. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, if you could buy yourself time back or give better quality service or focus on, I don't know, something that you actually like doing in your business and that you're good at doing, like, is that not worth it?
And I said this to a client yesterday, but the one non-renewable resource you have is time. Always make more money. Always. Money is there. As we're speaking, they're printing it, and they're printing millions and millions and millions of dollars in this very second. Printing it. There's money circulating through the internet, right? Literally the Kim Kardashian meme. Like that's literally it right now.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like billions of dollars being sent through the internet as we're speaking. So how is it that you believe that there's not enough? It's the mindset that you've been conditioned to believe that there isn't enough, because you only know what you know in that box that you've grown up in.
And I think that that's the first question that someone should ask themselves. Should they feel like they have a money. I think you just answered the question with a question. With a
Aha!
really good
What does
one
the coach
too.
do?
Yeah. Look, man, we are so fucking clever today. No,
And it's only 1:00. Look at me go. Crazy.
you know what? This wasn't necessarily on my plan, but there's something that I hear, and maybe you can help me understand this a little bit better, probably because I could do a little more reading on it, but I have a resource right in front of me right now. So I'm going to ask you, when people talk about money being energy, what does that mean? Like, how would you explain that?
So to bring it down to its absolute bare minimum, everything is energy.
Yeah.
Everything is comprised of atoms, right? If you want to go back to your science class in like what, grade 3, right? Everything is comprised of millions and millions of atoms, and everything is vibrating. So when you talk about energy, energy is a vibration. So if you were to take, I don't know, let's say this pen, and I took this pen and I put it under a microscope and I really focused in on it and I brought it down to its absolute bare bones, it would be vibrating, because everything, even though it looks still, is in constant vibration. Human beings, and the way, what's so funny? I've been listening to this for years, but the way I finally realized it was when this is so stupid, but I went to go pump gas. I was in Maui and I went to go pump gas at Costco, and it's like, do not get back into your car while pumping gas because you will recharge the static electricity. I'm like, you've never pumped gas in Canada, because I don't have to get back into my car here because it's hot, but at home and it's like minus 30 and that's Celsius. So for you guys, I think that's like minus, or that might be like, I don't know. It's cold. It's cold.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys don't know.
Cold is cold. Well, I'm in Missouri. I know what cold is.
You get it. You get it. Right. So it's like, it's cold. Okay. So when it's like minus 30 outside, like, I'm not trying to stand outside. It's cold. I don't care how thick my parka is. Doesn't matter. And I'm like, why the hell do they have that? And literally I'm standing at the pump and, and I see a plane flying. I was like, holy shit. It literally hits me. And I hear my boyfriend in the car. He's like, what? And I was like, it's because we're moving on. Like, we are electric beings. Like, we are literally electricity. And if I get back into the car, I recharge that electricity, because the car itself is a metal contraption, which also holds electricity, and in motion, it generates electricity. He's like, are you good, Bill Nye? Like, are you going to make it?
I know, like, what an aha moment to have it while you're pumping gas. I've never had an aha moment. That I have those in the shower, but not in the
gas station, right? Because I'm just like, who the hell thinks about anything at the gas station besides like, oh, there
Bill
goes
Nye.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So the way then I started realizing, like, it all makes sense, right? So it's like, how is money energy? Money is energy because money is paper, right? Money is essentially the meaning we give it. So someone could hold $50 and be like, okay, I'll drop $50 at, I don't know, Starbucks. Someone could hold $50 and be like, this is all I have to get groceries for the next 2 weeks, right? Money is very different to different people, but it's all the meaning you give it, because think about it, unless you had bricks and bricks and bricks of cash, if I were to put a $5 bill and a $10 bill on a scale on two different sides, they don't weigh any different. So energetically, it is the meaning we give it. But also, if you want to bring it down to the science and the Bill Nye, it's literally, okay, it's vibrating at a level, but it's always moving. So just to keep in mind, you are energetic beings. Don't get back into your car when you're pumping gas. Apparently, it's not a good idea.
You know what I do? I just get in really slowly, and I try not to make any movement. If it's really, really cold, I'll just like kind of pop the door open and I'll just kind of like sit inside. That's how I do it.
So it's funny because I did it here because it was really cold. Like, it was recent. And it was super cold, and like being pregnant, like, you're just more cold all the time. And I went back into my car. I was like, I'm not waiting. Like, it's freezing. The guy knocks on my door at Costco.
Get out of your car.
He's like, I need you to get out of your car. And I was like, first of all, sir, no, no. And he's like, I put my window down. I'm like, can I help you with something? And he's just like, you can't be in your car while you're pumping gas. I'm like, it's freezing and I'm pregnant. And he's like, I need you to bring a jacket next time. Then I was like, okay, dad, like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't do it on purpose, right? Like, I didn't know it was this cold. But then I realized, I'm like, okay, it's the static charge. They're trying to keep people from, like, blowing up
sparks and stuff. No big deal.
Yeah, I'm just so electric, right? Like,
such a rebel.
what do you do for a rebellious act? Well, I sit in my car at the gas station. What do you do?
I love it.
That would be a first date line for me for sure.
Oh my gosh, totally putting that on my dating profile. My dating coach will be so proud.
Oh, I love it. I love
like
it.
2 truths and a lie, that prompt.
What do you do?
I'm so dangerous. It's gonna just be my intro. I'm so dangerous that I get back into my car while I'm pumping gas.
I don't want to scare you, but I really like
I dare you to go on a date with me.
And I like getting in my car when I pump gas.
Well, I love the answer to that. And that's kind of where I went in my head, was that it is all about the meaning that we give it, which in a lot of things in life, it is all about the meaning and our perspective that we put on things, and then how we respond to that or react, because they're kind of different. But you could see, your perceived failures as like these really damning things, or you can try to extract the good and the lessons from that and use it to move forward and keep learning. And I mean, listen, I don't know how many times I've got to learn similar life lessons, but I guess it has to just hit me real big in the head sometimes. So even this year, I do that, but you just don't, sometimes you just take a chance. You don't know, whatever. How would you know if you didn't do it? But even still, it's like, okay, but it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you're any less this or less that. It just means that you took a chance and you're going to learn from it. And then you take those lessons and you keep moving forward.
Yep.
Period. End.
I think the big thing too that you just said, it's really important, because it's like, how many times do I have to learn the same lesson? And it's like, how many times did you have to listen to this, like, different speakers speak about the same things, like in the fitness industry, right? Like, just to bring it back to what you do, like, how many times do you think you had to hear about, let's just talk about something as simple as like a squat, right? And it's like, okay, so we know that like the knees don't go over the toes. And when you sit back and you sit on your heels and make sure that you're not like, nothing's running over, because then you can compensate that. And you have all these different things, and you've heard it 100 times, right? And you're like, okay, I get it, but you don't get it. But then there's the 101st person that comes in and says it, and they say it in a way that is so compelling that it speaks to you. And you're like, oh my God, of course.
Yeah.
The knees don't come over the toes. It's like, it just doesn't, right? So there's always going to be someone who speaks to someone on a different level. You can read 1 million books, you can listen to 1 million different speakers, like some people can really heavily relate to certain like motivational speakers. Some people are like, does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Like, I get nothing from this person, right? I personally, I mean, it's just kind of the area he speaks in, because I'm trained in it as well. Like Tony Robbins is a neuro-linguistic programming like master, right? I love neuro-linguistic. I love anything to do with the psychological mind. But then you have someone like Mark Cuban. He's not going to speak. He's going to speak to me on a business level. And I'm not going to get the same kind of influence from him. Whereas like my boyfriend relates to both, but more to Mark Cuban, because he's more interested in the business side. Whereas like last night, like I did a full-on hypnosis on him, and he's just like, okay, I feel really relaxed, but was I supposed to? I was like, what did you think you were going to levitate? Like, what did you think was coming? You were going to say like,
yes.
Like, but to me, like, I was like, like I was like, I could go on with this for 2 hours. He's like, I'm okay. So, like if I sat and I talked to him about like, like, I don't know, any kind of like big business, like, man, like, I don't know, like Kevin O'Leary, I'm going on like Shark Tank right now, but like anyone, like, he'd be like, yeah, that's like a really great, like, that's a really great perspective. And I'm like, okay, I'm talking about stocks. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? But that everyone has their area, and there's going to be someone who speaks to someone in a field that's going to resonate. and it'll land with you. And when it lands,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it sticks. So,
Yeah. I just started listening to a new podcast and I've heard of this person. It's James Wedmore. And I've heard of him before.
oh, weird. I was thinking about him this morning.
Yeah,
Not in a weird way. Not in a weird
yeah.
way.
I was in the shower and I was thinking about,
I was pumping gas and I was
I mean, he's
static.
attractive, whatever. Pumping gas.
I got statically charged and I was like, "Ooh, James Wedmore." I like that.
Ooh. Well, I've heard of him actually from somebody else in the lash industry. I think she did some coaching with him. And I didn't look him up at the time. I just, whatever, just thought he was a business coach. And then my sister, she's loves manifesting and doing all these, like, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like it's inspiring me to lean more into that. And, trying to like capture some feminine energy because I'm very much in my masculine a lot. Whole side conversation that honestly, like that's about the most that I know. I really need to learn more.
Yeah.
But I do realize that I am very on the go and like business like and taking care of things and independent, blah, blah, blah. But so I was like, I want to start doing some journaling and change some of my like little routines and vibes that I'm putting out. Because you can't think the same fucking things that you've always thought and expect growth. Like you just really can't. You have to be constantly like tweaking that and leveling up a little bit and changing and evolving and blah, blah, blah. Like, I know you're like, yes.
Let's go, Albert Einstein. Let's go.
Like the things are all the mathematic equations are floating around my head right now. So I looked him up and I found this like free resource for, I guess it was like manifestation or just kind of goal planning or something, but it had episode links is the point. So I listened to the episode that was suggested to go along with it. And I was like, okay, this is totally fucking different than what I thought it was going to be. And I said to my sister, I was like, I really like his podcast. And she goes, yeah, he's business mixed with a little bit of woo, which I don't know if those are the right words. I'm like, no, that's the perfect like description of that. And that really, I guess it speaks to me on a different level because it's a little bit, I don't know, more heart-centered and stuff too. And I like those vibes. And it's not just like we're putting thoughts out there and we don't do anything. Like, obviously you have to take action you have to take the right action. I think they say inspired action. But there was a podcast I ended up listening to last Friday on the way to work. And it's topics that I've heard before, but the way that he said something, I was like, oh my gosh, it just shined a whole new light. So you're right. I mean, it's just so interesting how life is really just a lot of reps. It's just a practice. So I would call them like self-care practices or mindset practices. It's a lot of practice and you're constantly learning and trying not to let those stumbles and the roadblocks, the trips over the rug piled high with shit you haven't dealt with. Like you're not dumb and you're not, a failure. You're not a loser. You're not silly. You're not stupid. Like you're just a human and to bring it back to what you said about parents and the tools and the resources that they had, that was when I read How Not to Give a Fuck by Mark Manson. There were two things that stuck out to me 5-6 years later from that book. Cause I haven't reread it. But it was something about death, but there was also something about parents and parents doing the best that they could with what they had at the time, with the tools that they had. And for me, wherever I was in my life right then, I was like, oh my God, yes, that makes so much sense. Like, I don't need to, for me personally, like, I only know my truth and my experience and my stories and my relationships. But for me, it was like, when my mom has ever said sorry for something, I'm like, you don't have to apologize. Like you've done great. You've done the best that you can with what you knew. Like, I'm fine. It's my responsibility to do whatever I need to do to feel better about whatever it is I want to feel better about. Right. But that was just such a poignant thing. And just knowing that, but like any good tool bag, you can acquire more.
And then we just start hoarding all the tools.
Me and my great metaphors, like Listen, we just got to be like our grandpas and start we gotta have the wall. We got to start thinking about filling up that wall with the special wrench and then the next special wrench and then the table saw, like I grew up going to farms. So like there's sheds of tools, acquired tools. And, sometimes you learn how to use them.
Sometimes you're like, that looks dangerous. I don't know if that should really be accessible.
Yeah, maybe we should maybe we should get back into our car
a couple levels higher, where someone can't come in and just go nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fine.
Maybe I'll save that one for special times. That's a special tool I use for special times. So let's get into some new year vibes here. And what are some like money affirmations that our listeners can just press 15 seconds, rewind and listen to?
Forget the whole rest of the interview. Just go right to the start. There are a few.
No, listen to the whole thing. It's really good.
There are some that actually, I keep some right above my desk, which is in our room, one of my desks. I have one as simple as I am a money magnet. I am abundant. And it's actually believing that you are abundant. Affirmations are one of these things. And I'm going to just preface this beforehand, that a lot of people think that, if I just say it enough times. I have one book and I think it's actually right. I have it here, where I just started getting into manifestation and affirmation writing. And I was like, I have paid off my credit card. It was like $12,000 at the time, $12,000 in full by this day. And all I did was keep rewriting it. I didn't believe a damn word I was writing.
Yeah, you have to put some energy into it.
I was just like, oh my God, my hand is going to fall off. Like, are we done?
Like Bart Simpson.
Yeah, literally. I was literally on the chalkboard, right? So I'm just like, oh, okay. So it's funny that when I go back now and I look at it, like I paid off 28,000 in early this year, like just in debt itself. And then after another huge chunk earlier than that, plus like everything else that came from this year. But even though that happened, it took me to look back and look at the affirmations, the bullshit affirmations I was writing, thinking that this was right with no understanding of it, to realize like, girl, there was no meaning behind what you were writing there. You were just hoping that if you wish for it hard enough, it'll happen. And that's just not how it works. I took no inspired action. I was just like,
I wish Robin Williams would appear out of a genie bottle and
I know, right? But I mean,
snap his fingers.
It's a little scary, but like it's fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, rest in peace. Like, Will Smith then.
But anyway, so affirmations, just as a little side note, would be, you're looking at something that is, you want it to have meaning, like always have meaning. It's just like people who create vision boards, right? Like vision boards are awesome and they're great because our mind always perceives in pictures. That's just how it does it. But it's really important that when you are creating these things or writing these things out, there is a feeling that associates to it. Because if I'm just saying something like, I'm going to have a really successful business, I can't wait. Or it's like, my business has generated $250,000 in revenue in the past 8 months. And with that 200, and then I kind of go off, right? Like I've been able to do this and do this and do this and expand here and donate here and all these things. So then that expansion just in my verbiage, like language patterns are so huge, but that expansion in my verbiage starts to really lift up my vibe. And I'm like, this is why I'm abundant. This is why I'm a money magnet, or this is why what else I've like, I'm grateful, I'm limitless, right? So it's getting into the state of gratitude for what you already have, which will translate into actually acquiring more money. But gratitude is like legit gratitude. Not like, wow, I'm so grateful that like I have this glass of water.
Put a little feeling into it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Right. And like a really quick thing people can even do, just because a lot of people ask me, it's like, so what can I do to raise my vibration? Like people talk about raising vibration. Like, what do you mean? You can do something really quick in like under a minute. Look around you, or like next time, I do this a lot in the shower because I feel like there's a big like leap that happens in the shower, because you can use a lot of transformational kind of like, what would I call it? Like transformational, like, there's like a lot of transformational things that happen in the shower. Okay. I'm not saying like, I'm thinking about James Wedmore in the shower, like someone is, but like, aside from that, like you're just in a state where water can be used as a representation of like a
Like a
new
conductor or something.
yeah. Now I'm a static. See, I'm electric
Yeah.
again.
I went back to that, but I think you're maybe going to take it a different way.
So like water can be used as like people use water as a definition of like renewal, regeneration, like a bath, right? Like think about like people who practice religion, like baptism, right? Like it's like a renewed sense of being. So it's like in the shower, you can do something as simple as, for me, what I like to is like, I'll say something like, wow, I'm so grateful for the fact that we have hot running water. I'm so grateful for the fact that, there's the electricity's on in the house. We have a warm bed to sleep in. And I'll name all the things around me, like all the things around me that I can just physically see. It's not even the stuff that I feel, stuff that I physically see. And I can name as many as I can in under a minute. And I will walk out and I'm like, holy, like we take it for granted, right? So it's like, yes, the affirmations are great. And yes, saying like, oh, I'm so abundant and I'm making all this money, is wonderful. It's the gratitude you feel for what you already have. Because if you're not grateful, and I say this all the time, if you're not grateful at making $2,000 a month, I promise you won't be grateful at 20,000 or 200,000. So yes, affirmations are great, but say them and put some oomph into it. Like feel what it is
that's what I was thinking,
right?
Yes.
Like say it with your chest. You know what I'm saying? Like really
a little zest. Yeah. Yes. Like what I've had a coach do with me is like you basically drop into feeling that. Like, what are you feeling when you think about what you want? Number one, fucking get clear on what you want. And then what are you feeling like when you achieve that, and who's with you and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I've done that exercise a few times, and I love that. And I will say, just for anyone listening, that because for me, it takes me a little, like just a few moments. It might take me a minute to really settle into that feeling. But if you're serious about it, like really sit there and drop into like how you want to feel. Sometimes it's just hard for me to shut off my like very busy mind. Yep. So I have to just really sit there and kind of focus and let everything else like calm down. And honestly, the shower is a great time to do that because you generally people are alone. And you got the water like running on you, it's like very, meditative feeling kind of thing. I love that. The shower, what is it? Can we talk about like why the shower is such a good time to have thoughts? Like, is it because we're distracted from everything else? It's like driving. I voice so many notes of ideas and content and like thoughts when I'm driving long distances, not really when I'm driving through town because there's too much shit going on. But when I'm on the open road and I'm listening to a podcast, I'll have to stop the podcast. Oh my God, I have too much stuff flowing out of me. And I might not use it. It might be way too deep.
No. So what happened? It's actually, so it's so funny. So based on like all the stuff I've studied and things like that, I tell people this all the time. People laugh at me when I say it, but I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to believe it. I'm just telling you what the fact is. But cool.
Listen, don't I?
Yeah, literally. When you're going on long distance, so when you detach like that, it's usually a state of hypnosis. So it's just the brainwave that your brain gets into, and basically comes to like a more relaxed state. So when you're driving long distances, or for example, let's think about when you go from point A to point B and you don't even know how you got there because you were literally doing so many things, like listening to a podcast or listening to music or looking outside or whatever, but you got there. Like,
yeah.
What? And you don't remember the drive.
Yeah.
Subconscious takes over. And when the subconscious takes over, it knows how to drive. It knows what to do. It knows all these. I'm not saying the subconscious is like a Tesla and you put it into autopilot and it's going to drive, like that's dangerous. Yeah. But what I'm saying is the subconscious mind has the ability to do all these things because it's been programmed, right? So when you go on those long distance drives and like, there's like those moments of like, oh my God, what the hell? It's because there is literally nothing we take in 2.6 million bits of information, literally like I'm pretty sure the stat is per minute. Okay. So think about that. But what happens is the subconscious mind will filter out all the stuff that is not relevant. So think about if you sat here and you were taking in all the bits, like at one time. So you'd be able to hear the blood rushing through your ears. You'd hear the birds chirping outside, maybe the rain coming down outside. You'd also hear like the water flowing through the pipes. Maybe the electricity is like in the light bulb. Like you're hearing like the saliva running through your mouth or like running down into your chest. You're hearing the stomach. Like imagine you're processing all those things all the time, all the time. You would go nuts.
It would be overwhelming.
Crazy, right? Like you literally, so the subconscious mind will literally filter it out and be like, this is not important. This is important. Okay. This is why social media is such like a brain ravager, is because there's so much stuff coming, and the news, right? So much coming at you, and your brain has no idea how to process it. So it's just like, we're going to take it all in and see what happens. So if you get upset about this, sorry, but this is what you're feeding to us. Right. So it's like, it has no chance to actually break it down. So it's funny that you said that, but yes, those long distances are because you're not taking in a whole bunch of information. You're not trying to process like the stoplight, the four-way stop. You're not processing all the other cars. Like there's really nothing going on. So you're finally at like a place of like, okay, a hypnotic state. You're still aware, but you're in a hypnotic state of being where the brain is just kind of like, huh, okay. So, hey, by the way, this word set you off for a good reason, and I need you to take a note on it. You're like, oh God, I feel really inspired to take a note right now. I have no idea why. All they said was but apparently that's a really important word, right? So that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Boy, that James Wedmore really set me off. Like,
so look at you go now, huh? Anytime you hear James now, you're like, gotta take a shower. I'm really excited. I don't know.
Gosh, if it ever got to the point where we knew each other, that'd be such a great joke.
He pops into like when he listens to one of your podcasts, like, oh, there was that podcast talking about me in the shower. So
like a year from now, I'm gonna be interviewing him for my podcast and he'd be like, funny story.
He's awesome.
I've had some conversations about you.
Don't go back and listen to episode okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, side note, like just thinking for myself, it really makes me want to find some different conferences to attend and like see these people, be cool.
See Have people. You thought about going to his Business by Design?
I honestly, I don't even know that about him. Like I'm so new that I just started following him on Instagram and just started following the podcast. And I'm like, I think I've been, just like, this is kind of personal, but not personal TMI, but just a side note. I've been listening to the same things and the same messages, and the same information for quite a while. And I've kind of had my morning show, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like I'm going to go back and it's not like I'm never going to listen to it again, but listening to him, I was like, this might be my new morning listen. Like, he's just got a great tone, and he's funny and kind of uplifting. And then also he gives real advice. Like it's not just all like magic stuff, and it's not just business. It's just like this blending of all the things. And I've listened to like 5 episodes, so I can't really say I know the whole thing. Yeah. But yeah, I realized this might be something that I want to listen to in my morning. It's going to put me in a different frame of mind, that maybe that's what I need right now. And so maybe, I need some different voices and some different, just some slightly different messages, or maybe they're delivered a different way. That's one thing that I like about the Lash conference, is that they do bring in all these different people that they aren't just in the lash industry, but they bring in motivational speakers from outside of our industry, and it exposes everybody to these different types of motivational or business or thought leaders. I think that's so cool. So for me, it's just like an expansion on that. And I've done a lot of a particular conference. It's more like nutrition coaching related, and some business, but it's like, oh, maybe it's time to like expand and learn from other people and meet other people and get their energy and all of that too. I mean, why not? So anyway, so you just enlightened me to that. I figured he probably did a conference, I figured, but I didn't know that there was actually a thing. Like
the only conference I've been to, because literally we went to it, and then after 2020, I'm not going to say the word because I can't even, I'm so done. Then 2020 happened. We did a Tony Robbins conference actually in October of 2019.
Oh, wow.
It was called The Power of Success. So there was multiple speakers there. So Rachel Hollis was there. I know everyone knows her. Tony Robbins was there. Phil Town, he's like an investor, was there. So like Steven was all like, you know, there was like many, the author of Mars versus Venus was there. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Who's the one that wrote Unfuck Yourself? Gary John Bishop, he was there. And it was just like unbelievable, like just unbelievable energy. And we want to do like a Tony Robbins event just because like we also, so the side note, but so his birthday, Tony Robbins' birthday is February 29th. Mine is February 28th. But because 29th is a leap year, he celebrates it on the 28th. So I literally went up to one of his little like kiosks, and I told the girl, I was like, you can just let Tony know. He doesn't know me. He'll know me one day. I was like, but he doesn't know me right now. We have the same birthday. I know it's the 29th and he celebrates on 20. She's like, are you serious? And I was like, so just let him know there's someone in the audience who gets it. Like, I get it. And she just started laughing, right? And Steven's looking at me, he's like, are you going to tell this story to everyone that you have the same birthday? So I was like,
yes.
Yeah. Hello. Like,
got a problem with it?
Like, do you think that we just stumbled upon this to like, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, oh my God. But so, yeah. So
I would do the same thing. Just like if I can find a way in.
Like, I don't care. I don't like, look, I have no personal attraction to him. It's not something like that, right? Like if it's The Rock, now we're talking about something completely different. You know, the man is aging like fine wine. Tony Robbins, there's something
seriously. What the hell?
Like, how did you lose hair and get more? I don't understand. Right? Like, I'm so confused. When we were in Maui, I was like looking every corner. I was like, is he here? Is he here? Is he here? Steven's like, I'm right here. I was like, don't care about you. Looking for something. I was like, it doesn't matter, right? But,
sorry, honey. I was looking past you.
Yeah, he was looking right through me. I know. But yeah, so like it's his heart, right? It's his heart. It's the kind of person that he is. And he came from a place of where he had no food, like one Thanksgiving, and that really launched him into wanting to give back. And it's just like we've never been in that situation, thank goodness. But there have been moments where it's been more, you know, emotional, tumultuous around finances and stuff like that. So it's like, that's how I knew like that was my path, right? Like he knew his was to start getting people out of the mindset they're in. And now he has a company, Feeding America, that feeds like 1.2 billion people. Like it's incredible, right? But it's just one of these things where like your power is in your story. And I think people need to start understanding that is like, you can change the world. Like people who like, there's that quote, right? People who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones who actually do it. Right? So it's like, even if it's on a smaller scale, like it might not be on a scale of like a Tony Robbins lifetime. Like you might not impact like 75 million people at once or however many he's impacted. But even if you impact 5 and those 5 go and tell 5 more, and then they go tell 5 more, and then they go tell 5 more. And it helps those people to break those patterns so that you can start living, like they can start living more abundantly and then spreading that message. That's all you need. The world is so much shit right now where it's like, if you can be the one voice that's like, hey, like it's actually not that bad. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it seems like everything's on fire. It's really not.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're consuming.
I absolutely agree.
You know,
I really didn't have much more to add to that because I definitely think that it's easy to underestimate the power of like your experience and sharing your story with other people, because you never know what that could open up for them to allow them to feel seen, feel like they belong, or feel like they can now share their story and be heard and whatever and heal. Like I totally, yes. All of yes.
It doesn't matter. Like as an individual,
I'm on
like,
that train.
Yeah. Maybe as a kid, like you were told, like what you say doesn't matter. Like be quiet, only spoken. I know a big one, like in Italian culture is like, you spoke when you're spoken to, or you speak when you're spoken to. You don't, like, you don't kind of pipe up. I don't know about everyone in Italian culture. I'm just saying like my family, how it was. It's like, you only speak when you're spoken to. Other than that, like you don't speak out of line. And it's like, that kept me quiet for speaking for so many years. So I was like, okay, well then no one's asking me, so I'm not going to say anything. Like, my toxic trait was to speak out, right? Was to rebel against that. And now I use my voice to be able to educate and inspire. So it's like, isn't it funny that the one thing that you were told not to do has now become your kind of like your catalyst to making you help other people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because I like didn't really consider myself like a super closed off person. I mean, I would see lash clients and I'd tell them things, but then I realized like there's a lot of stuff I don't actually share with people. And especially on social media, and as a coach and someone who is looking to inspire and help other people, it's almost like I'm doing a disservice by not sharing my experiences. So like, guess who has to get vulnerable and guess who has to open up? Me. And by doing so, then maybe I can help someone else or help them just feel less alone or inspire them to take some kind of action. And that's kind of my favorite thing. Like in my lash appointments, like if somebody is coming to me with this, like what I guess would be a limiting mindset that I didn't know that's what it was called. And I'm like, girl, whatever, like fill out your resume, like apply, like do it, change your life. Ooh, yeah, move to a different city. Like, I don't care if I'm losing a lash client, as long as you're happy. Like, like I get really excited for that.
Like, save your head, pull a 2000 and Brittany, you're going to
push them off the cliff. Like, yep, you're going to fly. Don't worry. You'll land fine. Yeah. But like, for me, it's like, no, don't. Yeah, you're good. Just stay where you are. It's good. Yeah.
You're like, I can push my clients to be 2007 Brittany, but I can't do it myself.
Oh, that's so good.
Like, why can I tell them it's okay to shave their head, but if I want to like cut my hair, I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't think so. We're gonna maybe not.
So that's the thing is you can always give advice to other people, but you can't take your own advice.
It's so hard.
You have to hear it from someone else, because to you that it's almost like does not compute. Like your body. I don't get it, right? Like your brain's like, girl, you know better. Like, come on, right?
Compute.
But it's literally,
I know, it's so accurate.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because you're like, I've given someone this same advice and I need to take this advice. Why am I not taking it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think like for me lately, it's been a constant, it's just like consciously reminding myself of who do I want to be? How can I embody that right now? Not like, what do I want to do right now because it's in the moment and I want to feel good. It's like, what's going to actually serve me better tomorrow in what I want to achieve and the types of habits that I want or routines that I want in my life. And listen, it's been a little struggle since the sun sets at 5. For some reason, like my energy's all whacked, but you know what? It's okay. We're climbing out of it slowly.
Get yourself some vitamin D. Are you taking vitamin D?
Yeah, I do.
Vitamin D. Now we're gonna get on Joe Rogan.
Especially, it's like, man, it's not even that I'm just so tired. I'm staying up too late. Like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. But it's one of those things that I'm like, all right, half an hour earlier. I do that to myself. I get out of sorts and then I just have to get right. I just have to ease back in and then I'm back in and then I'm good. So, and that happens, it's life. Like, I don't really beat myself up over it. And I think that's like success.
Hey, it's a little substance. And that's just it. It's like success to you is not the same as someone else. So it's like
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of stuff that is in what I do is not just money. There is a lot of the psychological component to it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, success to me might be every day of, I don't know. Let's just say, I don't know, I show up every day. Mm-hmm. Right? I just show up. But success to someone else who's struggling with depression might be like, I get out of bed every day. So it's like everyone's version of success is different. And it's so important. And I feel like I repeat it. Like, I feel like I'm having deja vu right now because I've talked about something similar so many times, but it's like everyone's version of success is so different. And to compare your success to someone else's is literally just going to keep you in a state of like, I'm not doing enough. Yeah. I'm not doing enough. And it's that constant comparison. And that's where you stay stuck.
Yeah. Focus on you, boo.
Yeah. That's it. Just do you, boo. There's no,
just do you.
Don't do everyone else. That causes other problems. Just do you.
That's a different podcast episode.
That's another episode, guys.
Listen, stay tuned for part 2. So you've mentioned a couple that you have some books next to you. What are the books that you're loving right now that you really want to share with everyone?
So this one is called The Science of Getting Rich. I know this will be a full video episode, but
she's showing us the book, everyone, but she said the title, Science of Getting Rich. Like it'll also be in the episode notes.
I have to understand, like I'm speaking on like different planes. Like you're not just speaking to people visually. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. This book is, it's short. It's 17 chapters. It's short, and every like 4 pages is a new chapter. So you feel really smart reading it because you're like, damn girl, I'm reading a book. Yay, this is great.
I love that. I am getting it immediately because that's one of my problems. I feel like I just don't finish. Like they don't like, yeah, get to the point faster for me or something. So that's perfect.
But this has to be one of the most incredible books I've ever read. And he literally says most of the stuff that I've read. Like I went from being I don't read. Like, I know I'm just not a reader to I'm going to force myself to start reading. I'm going to create a new habit. I think this year I've read like 10 books already. I went from zero. Like, do you understand? Like, I'd be like falling asleep. Like, I don't want to do this. So this one, and one I also finished reading recently in 4 days, which was way longer, but Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Oh my God. So good. And the messaging in these books, especially the ones that are about like mindset and stuff like that, they're all very similar, but they all have a different message, and everything is always up to the interpretation of the reader, right? So it's like what I get from it, you might not get from it, and vice versa. But the whole point is it's going to hit you in a different spot every time, because you're going to be like, oh, I didn't really get that. Oh, I didn't get that last time. How come I didn't notice this? Again, it's the bits, right, that you're taking in. So it might not be relevant to you at that time, but there's going to be stuff that sticks out at different times. And this one, The Science of Getting Rich, I'm just like, I can't. It's so good. It's so good. Like I'm obsessed.
I love it.
Obsessed.
Now I want to be obsessed too. Like I'm gonna get on Amazon and order
on Amazon or something like that. I was like, I should order them for everyone for Christmas. Like, you guys should be getting these stocking covers. This book is amazing. So
yes, cool. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been so amazing, so lovely. I didn't even really have the words. I've just enjoyed it so much. Love talking to you.
So fun.
And it's been so much fun. And thank you for sharing like so much good information and just, I don't know, being yourself. I love it.
You know, can't be too much ourselves. People are gonna be like, I gotta turn this off. They're weird. I wanted to actually leave you and your listeners with one question.
Yes.
And it has to relate back to the whole point of what we're talking about, which is money mindset. So people get into this idea that for some reason they're not able to make the amount of money they want to make. Like, you have submitted to the mindset that like, I'm only worth making, I don't know, my corporate job says I can make $40,000 a year and that's my cap. And I'm just going to work every day until I'm dead and and I'll get my, 2 weeks of vacation a year. I'm like, I don't even know what's the standard anymore. 2 weeks.
I don't know. I've been in corporate America for a really long time.
3 months this year. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I think it's 2 weeks of vacation a year. Right. And that's when it hit me. It's like, I was like, we took just away vacation was 6 weeks this year. And I was like, holy shit, I took 3 years worth of vacation, 3 years worth of someone's vacation in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I was like, why the hell do people think they can't do this? So the question I want to leave with people is, why are you so special that you can't make money while everyone else can? I love that. So what makes you think that for some reason you're limited to what you're making, but everyone else can make hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it might be? Or even say you want to go from 40 to 80. Why are you so special that you're not allowed to make that? But the lady down the street is allowed to. So ask yourself that question the next time you think like, I'm in this box and I'm making $4,000 a month and I want to be making 10, but I can't do it. Why not?
I love that. Marinate on that.
Put it in for $350 for 40.
I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to blast any. I did want to ask you, I feel like you're creating something right now. Like, what's coming down the pipeline for you?
Besides a baby.
That's right. You're cooking something up in a couple of ways.
It's got like 3 months left at $350, but we'll be fine. So I am working on a course, but that is more of a group style training. So right now my main offering is one-to-one. This is where I felt the most pulled. But for the new year, I feel like my next level of expansion is group training. So I'm going to be focusing on more groups. I'm also going to have an evergreen course that's going to come out. Evergreen, for people who don't know what that is not like I'm not selling a tree. Evergreen would be a course that is more self-directed. So it's like a self-directed.
I love you. But like I think we forget that it doesn't, like, all types of people can be listening, and they might, like, just because we understand those marketing terms doesn't mean that people do.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that, even though I laughed, I super appreciate that because I forget that too sometimes. So thank you. Yes. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. So evergreen.
So evergreen like more of like a course that lasts forever, right? Think about a tree, it lasts forever. But this would be more of a self-directed kind of way to step into all the things that I have learned and taught and things like that. And it's going to be going into a course where you're going to basically get it week by week over the course of, I haven't decided if I want to do 12 weeks or 7 weeks yet. I'm kind of playing around with that number. And it's going to help you to reframe your money mindset, and you're going to get to do it at your own pace. But either each week or each other week, no one knows about this yet, but I'm excited to share it, is going to have a live hot seat and fact, like little, I don't mean like fact, like to replace the word, you know what? I mean, FAQ session.
Yeah.
I don't mean to replace that word. So it's going to have a live frequently asked questions thing with a hot seat coaching each week.
Cool. That's super cool.
That's going to be super fun. So then you can address everything that comes up, what limiting beliefs have come up. So I'm really excited. I haven't solidified a date yet, but it's in the works. That most of it is completed already, but I am stoked because it's going to be able to help so many people. And that's all I want to do is change the topic around money from one of like, we can't talk about it, to like, what the hell are you making? This is awesome. Like, how do I learn more?
Yeah. Ooh, I'm super excited for you and everyone else. And so we're recording this right at the end of November. I think by the time this airs, like, listeners, you're going to have to circle back around and visit her IG, because I think it will be pretty good timing for this. If it's something that you feel called to do, unless you just want to work with her one-on-one, she's always doing that. So yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And where can listeners connect with you on the interwebs? Or if you want to give out your address for snail mail. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Sounds like like a dove, like white dove, like carrier pigeon.
Okay, we know. If you're listening, she lives in.
Oh my God. Isn't he? He's like married and has kids and stuff.
I think he is. I don't know if he has kids, but
embarrassing. But you know what? So is The Rock. Who cares?
It's full on. If The Rock is listening, you're getting my address like right away. Just I sleep on the left side of the bed. It's literally
send me your autographed postcard. Do you remember? Also, side note, do you remember Superman from the 90s, the series that was on TV from the 90s with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher?
I feel like it sticks out to me, but I was born in 1990 itself, so it might be too.
I'm older. I'm not much older than you.
But Dean Cain sounds very familiar to me.
What else was he on? God, he was Superman, and then he's been in some like Lifetime movies, maybe. Was he on like Saved by the Bell? No, I don't think he was on Saved by the Bell. Anyway, super hot. He was Clark Kent. He was like my guy, like, I was growing up. And I actually wrote to his fan club, but I got totally a postcard with him, like on his picture with it like signed on the back in the mail. And it was the thing. And there was a guy that I was friends with in school, and he was super into Superman, the series and all of that too. And super into Dean Cain too. And so like, we were just like, oh my God, I totally got a picture of him. Like, I mean, like he probably did not sign it, but I was like, I cherished that.
You're like enamored, like you look at that, you're like, oh my God,
yes, like, can we still do that? Do people still have like little fan boxes where you can write in and you can get pictures of your favorite celebrities? Because this was like Tiger Beat days, the heyday.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I probably wouldn't want like the Rock signature. I'd probably want like, what would I want? I'd probably want like an actual hug. I just love him.
And if you ran into him, I bet he'd totally do that. He's that type of guy. He's such a good dude with his fans.
In Maui, I was like hiding in the bushes, like holding up 2 sticks. Like, is that him? Is that him?
Can we have a shot of tequila? Like,
a bottle of tequila.
Yeah, we send that to me.
Let's see what happens. I don't know.
You own a whole company. Can you just send me some? Yeah. Okay. Where people are like, oh my gosh, will they ever answer the question?
Shut up.
No, listen, we won't. We do what we want. Listen, tell everyone where they can hang out with you on the internet.
So it would be on Instagram, which to spell my name is going to be fun, but it's Antonietta Adele. So you'll link it in the show notes. I'm not going to.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Same on, I think I have Antonietta Adele Coaching is Facebook. And then after my website, AntoniettaAdele.com. And you guys can, I'm in my DMs like crazy. Like, I think it's so fun chatting with people there. So if you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out in the DMs. And yeah, I look forward to chatting. I appreciate this so much. I've had so much fun.
Oh my gosh, me too. So I'm already thinking like, well, how can I bring her back? What else will we talk about?
Put on a mustache and say I specialize in something else. Hello, you don't know me.
And you teach us a science experiment. Take me to the gas station with you. See what kind of trouble we can get into. Oh my gosh, I love it. Dear, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, listeners, for hanging out with us and joining us in this fantastic discussion about money and mindset. Antonietta, it's always a pleasure to see you.
So much.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. That was such a great conversation. Thank you, Antonietta, for such an insightful and funny, hilarious conversation. I edit all my own episodes, and so I get to listen to all of these again. I get to experience them in real life, and then I get to experience them again as I'm editing. And truly, like, she shared so much goodness, and I was laughing most of the time at all of our silly jokes and the things that she said. So truly so much fun to have her on the podcast. And thank you all so much for listening and being here today. If you like this episode, I would love and appreciate a review. That is what helps this podcast get discovered and to grow our community. I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Abio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra laugh once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.